The Galactic Empire was vast, stretching across thousands of star systems. Its fleets patrolled every border, its laws controlled every species, and its council believed nothing could surprise them. For centuries they had ruled, and every encounter with new species always ended the same: fear, surrender, obedience. But one morning the deep space sensors picked up something unusual. A small cluster of ships had crossed the Empire's outer border. They were not registered on any known list. No markings, no flags, only silence. The signal officer called out to the High Command, "An unknown fleet has entered Sector 7. At first, the Council laughed. They thought it was another lost species stumbling into their territory by mistake. It had happened many times before. The Empire's ships moved quickly. Sleek and heavy battleships armed with plasma cannons surrounded the border. Commanders waited for the strangers to panic, but something strange happened. The unknown fleet did not retreat. They did not send distress calls. They simply kept moving forward, calm, steady, like they had no fear at all. When the first visual images arrived, the Council leaned forward in surprise. The ships were not alien, not mechanical beasts like other races built. They were simple but strong. Metal frames with sharp edges, engines glowing blue, and on the side of one ship was written in a language the translators had to decode. The word was human. "Humans," the Emperor whispered. "I have never heard of them." The hall filled with murmurs. Reports were quickly pulled from ancient archives. Only scattered notes existed. Long ago, humans were said to be a minor species on a small planet called Earth. Forgotten, ignored. No one expected them to wander this far, yet here they were. The High Council ordered a message to be sent. A booming voice was broadcast into the human ships. "You have entered the territory of the Galactic Empire. Surrender your fleet or be destroyed." Normally, this kind of message was enough to break the spirit of newcomers. Fear always came first, but the humans did not surrender. They did not panic. Instead, a calm voice replied, "We are travelers. We do not seek war, but we do not fear it either." The Empire officers stared at one another. The tone was steady, clear, not trembling like all the others before. The Empire decided to test them. One commander ordered his ships to fire warning shots. Bright plasma bolts flashed across space, shaking the dark void. The human ships did not move. No sudden retreats, no screams, only calm silence. And then, slowly, the human fleet adjusted its formation, shields glowing, engines steady, like they had expected this all along. Inside the council chamber, tension rose. The Emperor frowned. "Why do they not tremble?" One senator replied. "Perhaps they are fools," another whispered. "Or perhaps they know something we do not." Back on the border, alien officers stared at their screens, whispers spreading. They should be afraid by now. Yet the humans moved like explorers walking through their own home. Their ships were smaller, weaker compared to the Empire's giants. But something about their steady silence carried more weight than any weapon. The humans finally sent another message. "We came here to see the stars, not to bow, not to kneel. We will not harm unless forced, but we will not run." This single sentence echoed across the Empire's communication network. Officers replayed it again and again. It was not arrogance. It was not begging. It was pure confidence, the kind that unsettled even the strongest heart. In the Empire's history, every species had begged for mercy when faced with their power. But these humans, they spoke like equals, even while surrounded, even while threat. "Ned," one young alien officer whispered to his commander. "Sir, they are not afraid of us," the commander snapped back. Everyone fears the Empire, but his own voice shook as he watched the humans continue forward. The border fleet commander finally ordered them to halt. But instead of slowing down, the humans transmitted coordinates. "We are heading there. We will not change our course." The coordinates pointed deeper into Empire space, closer to the core. The Empire could not believe the audacity. No one dared to move toward the core without permission. It was madness. It was rebellion. And yet the humans said it like a simple truth. The Emperor, watching from the great council chamber, clenched his fists. "If they are testing us, they will learn fear." But deep inside, a small unease had already begun. These were not ordinary travelers. Something about their steady courage unsettled even him. The first part of their story had just begun. Humans had walked into the most powerful empire in the galaxy, not with weapons raised, not with fear in their hearts, but with calm steps and steady voices. And in that moment, the empire realized something they had never faced before, a species that would not tremble, a species that would not bow. The Galactic Empire had crushed countless civilizations. But as they looked at the humans' calm faces, a whisper spread through the ranks, a whisper that grew louder with every second. These humans, they said, are different. And so, the first chapter of fearlessness opened. Humans had entered the empire, and the galaxy was about to change forever. The human fleet drifted deeper into empire space, their ships steady, their course unshaken. The empire's warships shadowed them on every side, hundreds of cannons ready to fire. And yet the humans did not turn, not even once. Inside the grand chamber of the empire, the council argued fates. Earthly, some shouted that the intruders must be destroyed at once. Others demanded that they be captured alive to study their strange courage. But one voice cut through the noise. The emperor's, "Bring me their leader," he said. "Let us see what kind of creature dares to walk without fear." A signal was sent to the human fleet, ordering them to dock at the empire's nearest outpost. It was a trap. The station had been designed to intimidate, its walls glowing with fire, its halls echoing with the screams of conquered species. The message was simple: enter the station, speak with the council, or face destruction. Most species would have begged for mercy, most would have turned back, but the humans calmly replied, "We will come." Their words shocked even the emperor, not only because they agreed, but because their voice carried no tremor, no hesitation. The docking bay opened, alien soldiers stood in rows, their armor black, their weapons sharp. They waited to see trembling creatures stumble out of fragile ships. But when the human doors opened, the soldiers froze. The humans walked out in perfect calm. Their boots echoed on the metal floor. Their faces carried no fear, no shame. Their eyes looked straight ahead. The leader of the soldiers, a tall alien with 4 glowing eyes, stepped forward and hissed, "Kneel before the Empire." It was a command that had broken thousands before, but the humans did not kneel. They did not even flinch. Instead, one of them stepped forward, tall and steady, his uniform simple, his voice calm. "We kneel before no one. We stand as equals, or not at all." Gasps filled the chamber. No species had ever dared to speak so boldly. Not here, not in the heart of the Empire station. The alien commander raised his weapon, his hands shaking with rage, but before he could fire, the Emperor's voice came through the intercom. "Enough! Bring them!" To me, the humans were led through endless corridors, alien guards surrounding them, trying to intimidate them with stares and snarls. But the humans walked with steady steps, not once breaking their composure. It was as if the Empire's cruelty meant nothing to them, as if they had walked through worse and survived. Finally, they entered the council chamber, a vast hall with golden pillars and glowing walls. Alien leaders sat in towering thrones, their eyes burning with arrogance. The Emperor himself sat on the highest throne. His voice filled the chamber. "You are humans," he said, "a forgotten species from a forgotten world. What gives you the right to walk into my empire without fear?" The human leader looked up, his voice soft but sharp. "We do not need a right to walk among the stars. We came not to kneel, not to conquer, but to live as free beings. If that offends you, then destroy us now." The chamber fell silent. The aliens had expected begging. They had expected trembling. But instead, the humans gave them a choice. Destroy us or accept us. No middle ground. The Emperor leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "You are bold," he said slowly, "but boldness without strength is nothing. Why should I not crush you now, as I have crushed 1,000 others?" The human did not blink. He did not stutter. His words came steady. "Because we are not like the others. We have lived in fire. We have risen from ashes. We do not break. We do not bow. We do not fear." The words hit the council harder than any weapon. The senators exchanged nervous looks. For the first time in centuries, someone had spoken to them without fear. One senator hissed, "They bluff. They are weak." Another whispered, "Then why do their eyes not tremble?" The Emperor raised a hand for silence. "If you truly have no fear," he said, "then prove it." he signaled, and the floor of the chamber shifted. Reveal. In a massive arena below, alien beasts roared in cages, monsters bred to terrify and destroy, creatures used to test the courage of prisoners. Step into the arena, the Emperor commanded. If you survive, I may believe your words. If you fall, the galaxy will forget you once again. The guards opened the gate, waiting for the humans to hesitate. But without a word, the human leader stepped forward, his people following behind him. They entered the arena with steady steps, facing the darkness, facing the monsters, and not one of them looked back. Above them, the Emperor leaned back in his throne, his voice cold. Let us see if your courage is truth or just illusion. The cages opened, the beasts roared, claws scraped the metal floor, and the humans stood ready, calm as ever, their shadows stretching in the light of the arena. The Empire expected fear, but what they saw instead was something far more dangerous, unbroken will. The arena lights burned bright, the ground shook as the cages unlocked, chains snapped, and creatures roared. The audience of alien senators leaned forward, eager to see humans tremble at last. They wanted fear, they wanted panic. But the humans stood still. Their leader raised one hand, and in perfect silence, his team formed a circle, backs to each other, eyes outward. It was not chaos, it was discipline. Every step measured, every breath steady. The first beast lunged, a massive creature with armored skin and burning red eyes. The crowd gasped. They expected humans to scream, but instead one human stepped aside at the last second, calm and sharp. The beast crashed into the ground, confused. Another human struck with a simple weapon, a shock baton pulled from his belt. The monster screamed as sparks lit the arena. The audience murmured, "How do they move so calmly? Why do they not run?" Whispers grew louder. Fear began to shift, not from humans to beasts, but from beasts to humans. The Emperor narrowed his eyes, his claws tapping the throne. Interesting, he muttered. He had seen countless species face the arena, but none like this, none who fought with such quiet control. Another gate opened, this time two creatures, long serpents with wings and sharp teeth. They hissed as they circled above. The humans tightened formation. Their leader gave a signal. One raised a device. It was small, hardly noticeable. A flash of light burst upward, disorienting the serpents. The humans moved together, not breaking formation, not showing fear. The senators whispered in disbelief. These are not savages, these are soldiers. The Emperor's voice thundered across the chamber. Do you understand who we are? We are the Galactic Empire. We are the rulers of stars. You cannot resist us. The human leader looked up, sweat on his forehead, but his voice calm. Then why do your beasts fear us more than we fear them? The crowd fell silent because it was true. The monsters bred to instill terror hesitated, circling instead of striking, sensing something different in the humans, something that unsettled them. Enraged, the Emperor gave another command. The largest gate opened, and out stepped a creature that had ended the lives of many challengers before. A titan, claws longer than swords, eyes glowing with hunger. It roared so loudly the walls shook, dust falling from the ceiling. For the first time, the senators leaned back in unease, but the humans did not. They tightened their stance. Their leader shouted, "Hold!" His voice echoed not with fear, but with power. The titan charged. The ground split beneath its weight. But at the very last second, the humans moved, precise, coordinated. They scattered just enough to surround the beast. Every strike they made was small but sharp, targeting weak points, eyes, joints. The creature howled in rage, swiping its claw. Yes, but the humans rolled, dodged, and struck again. The audience had never seen such unity. It was as if they were one mind, one body, moving together without hesitation. Finally, the beast stumbled, falling to its knees. One human leapt onto its back, jamming a pulse blade into its skull. The arena shook as the titan collapsed. Silence fell. Not a single human had fallen. Not a single one had shown fear. The senators stared in shock, their arrogance shaken. One muttered, "They should not have survived." Another whispered, "They fight as if fear does not exist." The Emperor rose slowly, his eyes burning with a mix of rage and something else. Something he refused to admit. Respect. He addressed the humans. "You are clever. But cleverness is not power. Do you believe you can resist the might of an empire? Do you believe your courage alone can save you? The human leader stepped forward, his boots echoing in the silent hall, his face calm, his voice steady. We do not resist to win. We resist because fear does not rule us. You rule galaxies with terror, but what happens when terror no longer works? The words cut through the chamber like a blade. Senators shifted uncomfortably. Never before had anyone spoken such words in their presence. The emperor's claws tightened on his throne. "Enough!" he roared. "You dare mock us in our own hall." But the mockery had already turned serious. The humans had done more than survive. They had exposed a truth the empire never wanted to face. Their power was built on fear, and fear had no hold on these humans. The arena gates closed. The beasts dragged away, but the memory remained. The image of humans standing calm in the face of monsters, their eyes unshaken, their spirit unbroken. Whispers spread across the empire, from soldier to senator, from citizen to council. Whispers of a species that walked into the empire without trars, embling. Whispers of humans who stood against beasts and did not break, and those whispers carried a question that no one dared to speak aloud. If they fear nothing, how do we defeat them? The arena fight had ended, but its echo had not. In the days that followed, every corner of the empire whispered about the humans. Soldiers in the barracks spoke in low voices. They faced the emperor's beasts, and they did not fall. Traders in the markets repeated the tale. They were small in number, yet they stood without fear. Even slaves, who once trembled at the empire's name, began to whisper in hope. Fear had been the foundation of the Galactic Empire. It was fear that kept thousands of species obedient. It was fear that gave strength to the emperor's throne. But now, for the first time, that fear was cracking. Not because of a battle, not because of a war, but because of a handful of humans who refused to bow. In the council chamber, chaos grew. Some senators demanded that the humans be executed at once before their story spread further. Others warned that such an act would only make them legends. One senator hissed, "Fear must be restored." Another whispered, "What if fear cannot be restored?" The emperor sat in silence, his mind restless. He had seen their eyes, eyes that did not tremble, eyes that reminded him of something ancient, something dangerous. He remembered the way the beasts had hesitated, the way the arena had turned silent, the way even his own soldiers had shifted uneasily. To test the humans further, he ordered a controlled experiment. Fleets of Empire soldiers were sent to observe the human camp, not to fight, only to watch. What they saw unsettled them more. The humans trained together as one, moving in perfect unity. Their discipline was unlike anything the Empire had seen. They did not train with fear. They trained with trust, with faith in each other. Reports returned to the council. Their technology is not greater than ours, the spies admitted. Their weapons are simple, their ships are smaller, but their unity is terrifying too. Hey, fight like one living being. In the dark corners of the empire, rebels heard the rumors. Slaves who had never raised their heads now whispered a dangerous thought. If the humans do not fear, why should we? The emperor sensed the danger growing. Fear was slipping from his grasp, but he could not admit it. Instead, he declared, "We will crush them in public, and the galaxy will see them broken." He ordered a great demonstration. Humans would be paraded before the Empire's strongest fleets, their weakness shown for all to see. But when the announcement spread, the opposite happened. Crowds gathered not to mock the humans, but to glimpse them. Curiosity burned brighter than mockery. Even the most loyal citizens wondered, what kind of species stands calm against the Emperor? On the day of the demonstration, the humans were brought to the central square of the capital world. A vast city of metal towers and glowing skies. Millions watched from every screen across the empire. The emperor rose on his throne above the square, his voice booming, "Behold the intruders who dared to defy us. See how fragile they are. See how powerless." The crowd expected trembling, expected tears, but the humans stood straight, their leader at the front, his face calm, his voice steady as he spoke. "We came not as slaves, not as conquerors, but as equals. You call us fragile, yet your beasts could not break us. You call us powerless, yet your fear cannot touch us." The words spread like fire. Every screen across the empire carried them. Every ear heard them. And for the first time, countless beings realized the truth. The humans were not powerful because of weapons. They were powerful because they did not bend to fear. The emperor slammed his claws against the throne. "Silence them!" he roared, but it was too late. The whisper had become a storm. Soldiers who had once believed the Empire invincible now looked at the humans with doubt. Citizens who had once bowed now raised their heads. Even senators who had sat in silence began to question. The empire had been shaken before. The rumors had shaken the empire, but the humans had not yet spoken their full truth. The council wanted answers, the citizens wanted to understand, and even the emperor demanded, what makes them stand without fear? So the humans were called again into the grand chamber, the senators waiting like predators, the emperor glaring from his throne, the question burning in the air. Tell us, what gives you this courage? What makes your small species believe it can walk into an empire without trembling? The human leader stepped forward, his boots echoing on the golden floor, his voice calm. You see our courage now, but you do not see the fire we have walked through. The chamber grew still, every alien leaning closer as the human began to speak. We come from a world that nearly destroyed itself, he said. Our skies burned with war, our lands cracked with famine, our oceans choked with storms. For centuries we fought each other, and when the fighting ended, the earth itself punished us with quakes, floods, and endless storms. We were forced to rebuild not once, but again and again. Every time we rose, something tried to break us, but we did not break. A murmur spread through the council. No species had ever admitted such scars so openly, but the humans spoke not with shame, but with pride. We learned to fight not for conquest, the human continued, but for survival. We learned that fear does not feed the hungry, fear does not rebuild a city, fear does not save a child, and so we left it behind. It became useless to us. We replaced it with something stronger, with resilience. The senators shifted uneasily. Their empire had always ruled through fear, and now a species stood before them declaring that fear itself was powerless. One senator slammed his claw against the table. Lies, he shouted. All beings fear. Fear is the truth of existence. The human leader turned his gaze toward him, calm, steady. Perhaps, but when fear tried to rule us, we chose to stand anyway, and that choice made us what we are. The emperor leaned forward, his eyes narrow. You claim resilience makes you strong, but strength comes from power, from fleets, from weapons, from control. What do you have that can match an empire? The human answered without pause. We have endured what no empire could survive. You command the stars, but you have never faced the end of your own world. You have never watched everything collapse and still chosen to rise. We have, and that is why we do not fear you. The words struck the chamber like a storm. Senators who had mocked them now sat silent. Soldiers who listened through hidden speakers clenched their fists, wondering if such courage was possible. Then the human leader said something that unsettled the emperor most of all. We fight not because we seek to rule. We fight because every step we take forward is for those who cannot fight, for children yet unborn, for voices yet unheard. We are not fearless because we are stronger. We are fearless because we must be. The emperor tried to laugh, tried to crush the moment with scorn, but his voice cracked with something rare, doubt, and across the empire the story spread further. Now it was not only about humans defeating beasts, it was about their history, their scars, their survival. Species who lived under the empire's shadow whispered, if they survived a broken world, maybe we can survive this empire. A merchant whispered to his friend, their strength is not in ships, it is in spirit. A soldier whispered to his comrade, if they do not bow, why do we? A slave whispered in the dark, maybe fear is not forever. The emperor sensed the danger. He ordered censors to silence the broadcasts, but it was too late. The message had already spread. Humans had shown their way, and it was more dangerous than any fleet. That night, the emperor met with his generals in secret, rage in his eyes. They must be destroyed, he growled, before their words turn into rebellion. But even the generals shifted uneasily. because in their hearts a seed of doubt had already grown, and deep inside the empire a quiet revolution began, not with weapons, not with armies, but with whispers carried from one being to another, whispers of a species that had faced fire and storm, war and famine, and still walked forward without fear, the human way. It was not just survival, it was defiance. It was a spark the empire could not easily crush. And in the silence of his throne room, the emperor clenched his claws and whispered to himself, "If they cannot be broken, then perhaps neither can those who follow them." The emperor's patience had reached its limit. The whispers of humans refusing fear had spread too far, in the markets, in the barracks, even in the lower halls of the palace. Everywhere the same question rose: if humans do not fear, why do we? The empire's power was built on fear, and now that foundation trembled. The emperor knew one thing: if the humans were not broken soon, their legend would grow beyond control. So he gave the order: prepare the fleets. The grand assembly of war began. Thousands of warships lifted from their docks, black hulls glowing under the stars, weapons charged, engines humming like thunder. This was no small force. This was the empire's might, enough to crush entire civilizations in a single campaign. The humans were summoned again, their leader standing before the throne. The emperor's voice thundered, "Words have carried you far, but words are nothing without strength. Tomorrow you will face the fleets of the empire. If you survive, I will acknowledge your courage. If you fall, your story ends here." Any other species would have begged, but the human leader simply bowed his head once, his voice calm. "Then tomorrow will show what fear cannot hide." The next day, in the endless void of space, the fleets gathered. Hundreds of Empire warships formed a wall of steel and fire, their weapons aimed at a single point: the human fleet, small, fragile in appearance, barely a handful of ships standing against an ocean. The spectators filled the viewing halls, senators, generals, citizens, all watching, expecting the moment when humans would finally break. But as the human ships moved into formation, a strange silence spread. They did not scatter. They did not flee. They moved with precision, calm, like hunters walking into familiar ground. The command was given. Empire warships fired, beams of plasma, storms of missiles. The void lit up like fire raining across the stars. Explosions shook the darkness. The crowds roared, believing the humans destroyed. But when the smoke cleared, gasps filled the halls. The human fleet was still there, shields glowing bright, formations unbroken. They had taken the storm and endured it. "How?" one senator whispered. "Their ships are smaller, weaker. How did they survive?" The answer came as the humans moved, their ships weaving together like threads of one cloth, every turn precise, every strike measured. They did not try to outgun the Empire. They outthought them, their strategy perfect. One human ship would draw fire, another would flank, a third would disrupt communications. Empire captains shouted in panic, "They move too fast. Their formation is impossible to break." One by one, Empire warships were disabled, not destroyed, but disarmed, their engines fried, their cannons silenced. The humans were not fighting to kill, they were fighting to prove a truth. The Emperor rose from his throne, his claws digging into the armrest, rage in his voice. "Impossible," he snarled, but deep in sea. Fear crept in, not fear of defeat, but fear of what it meant. The humans sent a single transmission, their leader's voice calm across the battlefield. "We told you, we do not seek war, but we do not fear it. You rule through fear, but your fleets cannot rule us." The words echoed through the halls, through the ships, through every listening ear across the Empire. And for the first time, soldiers who had always fought without question hesitated, some lowering their weapons, some whispering, "What are we fighting for?" The battle raged on, but the pattern did not change. No matter how many ships the Empire sent, the humans held their ground. They were not invincible, but their spirit made them unshakable. Finally, the Emperor slammed his hand down. "Enough," he roared. He could not allow the spectacle to continue. He ordered the fleets to retreat, to regroup, but the damage was already done. The Empire's greatest power had been tested, and it had failed to break a handful of humans. In the silence that followed across the galaxy, the whispers grew louder, stronger. They stood against the Empire's full strength, and they did not fall. The senators argued in secret chambers, Generals doubted in private halls. Citizens looked to the sky with new hope. The myth of the empire's invincibility had been shattered, and it was shattered not by a war, not by a rebellion, but by humans who simply refused to fear. That night, the emperor stood alone in his throne room, his reflection staring back from the polished floor, his voice a whisper. If fear cannot rule them, then what can? The battle had ended, but its echo spread faster than light across the empire's millions of worlds. The same words were whispered. The fleets could not break them. On border stations, soldiers spoke in hushed tones. We surrounded them with thousands, yet they stood. In crowded markets, traders repeated. Their ships were small, yet they faced the stars. In slave camps, the oppressed raised their heads for the first time in years. If humans can defy the emperor, maybe we can too. The empire was shaken, not by defeat, but by doubt. Doubt in their ruler, doubt in their fear, doubt in their future. The emperor sat on his throne, his eyes burning with rage. His empire had ruled for centuries, unchallenged, unquestioned, unbroken. Yet now a handful of humans had cracked the foundation. He roared to his council, "We are the Galactic Empire. We are power itself. How can they stand against us?" But no senator answered. No general dared to speak. Silence was louder than his roar. At last, one old senator rose, his voice trembling not with fear but with truth. Because they do not bow to fear, your majesty, and without fear, our rule is hollow. The emperor struck him down with a wave of his hand, but the words could not be erased. They echoed in every mind present. Meanwhile, the humans were brought once more into the chamber, still unbroken, still steady. The emperor glared at their leader, his voice sharp. Why did you come here? What did you seek? The human answered with the same calm as always. We came for the stars. We came for discovery, not to rule, not to kneel. We came to walk as equals, and if that is denied, we will walk anyway. The chamber shook with gasps. The arrogance of the words was clear, but so was their power. The emperor rose slowly, his rage hidden behind a cold mask. He could not admit defeat, yet he could not deny the truth. If he crushed them, they would become martyrs. If he spared them, they would become legends. Either way, the empire was already weakened, so he gave his final command, his voice heavy. Leave our empire, never return, and take your poison of fearlessness with you. But as the humans turned to leave, their leader spoke once more, his words carrying farther than a yes. Nigh weapon, fear is already gone, you cannot command it back, your people have seen another way. The words spread beyond the chamber, carried through hidden channels, whispered in secret halls, repeated on distant worlds. Fear is already gone. When the human fleet finally departed, the empire watched in silence, millions of eyes staring at the ships fading into the stars. Not with scorn, not with laughter, but with something new, something dangerous, respect. In the months that followed, unrest grew. Small acts of defiance lit fires across the empire. Slaves refused to bow. Soldiers hesitated to enforce cruelty. Citizens began to speak openly. Every whisper carried the same name, humans. They had wandered into the empire with no fleets to match, no weapons to terrify, no armies to overwhelm, only the refusal to fear. And that refusal had done what no war could achieve. It had shaken the empire's throne. In the council's darkest chambers, generals whispered in dread, what happens if they return? What happens if more of them come? In the slave camps, rebels whispered in hope, they will return, and we will be ready. And in the throne room, the emperor stared into the void, his claws clenched, his pride shattered, his mind repeating the words he wished he could forget. They do not fear us. For the first time in centuries, the empire knew what it felt like to tremble. And somewhere in the stars, the humans sailed on, calm and steady, their legends spreading far ahead of them, leaving behind a legacy greater than fleets, greater than wars, a legacy of defiance. They had walked into the Galactic Empire without fear, and they had left it forever changed.